I do not believe that it's unreasonable or to show ID just to vote. And I remind everybody that less than a year ago in Wisconsin, they added that to the Constitution by a 63%, passing to put that in the Constitution.
And that's Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman with me here last weekend on his support for voter ID. The House on Wednesday passed the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, or the Save America Act, in a vote 218 to 213, with Texas Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar, the only Democrat to cross party lines to join Republicans in voting for the SAVE Act. The bill now heads to the Senate, where Democrats are vowing to block it using the filibuster. The Republicans seem to have at least 51 votes, with support over the weekend from Senator Susan Collins from Maine. President Trump has called on Senate Majority Leader John Thune to abolish the filibuster, allowing a simple majority to pass the voter ID bill. But the so-called nuclear option does not have broad support among the 53 Republicans who fear Democrats can use it later to ram in their agenda if they regain control. Joining me now with more is Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty, an integral member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and former U.S. ambassador to Japan. Senator, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being here.
Likewise, Maria. Thank you for having me this morning.
Do you believe John Thune will bring the SAVE Act to the floor? And what about this standing so-called talking filibuster scenario? Will that be enough for you to pass the SAVE Act in the Senate now that you have 50 votes, thanks to Susan Collins' support over the weekend?
Yeah, well, I want to first applaud Susan Collins for coming on board. That gives us the votes necessary to do it if we can get it to the floor. I think you know this. The American public are broadly in support of showing voter ID. It's a north of 80% issue for the American public. And you've got to ask yourself, who are the Democrats in the Senate representing? Over 70% of Democrats want this, yet we won't have a single Democrat that will support it. Why is that? You look no further than what they tried to push forward about 5 years ago with their HR1, S1, the whole voting apparatus that they tried to come in and change to do away with voter ID across the nation, to enlist 16-year-olds to vote, felons to vote, using taxpayer dollars to support campaigns and, frankly, to pay their own candidates. So they're so detached from reality, it's just amazing. What the SAVE Act does is very simple. It simply requires what we require here in my home state of Tennessee. It codifies that to demonstrate that you are indeed an American citizen. In order to vote, you have to be qualified. And then when you go to the poll, you have to prove that you're yourself by showing an ID. That is not hard. That's not difficult. And it does not impinge on the state's constitutional abilities to set the time and manner and place of elections. It seems like it should be a no-brainer, but the reason that it's not is because the Democrats under the Biden administration flooded this country with tens of millions of illegal aliens. They want chaos in the elections. They want no voter ID. And so you've got to really ask yourselves, who do they represent? Why are they trying to do this? I think the American public is with us on this one. We're looking at the talking filibuster. It's something that has not been used in a long, long time. It's a complicated process, but I think we're going to look at every way we possibly can to get this to the floor, to defeat the Democrats' obstructionism, and do something that makes common sense for Americans.
So what you're saying is that the Democrats' policies do not resonate with American citizens, so they want illegals to come in and support their policies. And you also said you are right now examining this talking filibuster?
Yes, we're looking at it. We've gone through it as a conference. And now that we have Susan on board, I think we're going to be laser focused on this and any other method that we can utilize to get this onto the floor, because this is obviously something the American people want. I think what we'll have, if we actually implement it, is a higher turnout at elections, because people will have more confidence that the election of their vote is going to be sacred, it's going to be safe, and we're going to have voter integrity.
Okay. We've been talking about the Munich Security Conference this morning and, of course, the threats to America's national security, including Iran and China. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was at the Munich Security Conference, and she was asked a question about China. I believe she wants to run for president at some point. Let's take a look at how she responded. Watch this.
This is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
I'm not sure what she was talking about there, Senator, but she was asked what the United States should do should China go into Taiwan.
Well, I think you can see the lack of seriousness among leading Democrats here in America. Contrast that with Secretary of State Rubio's speech. He did a brilliant job articulating the reason and the rationale for America to work closely with our European allies and to stand strong against adversaries like China. That's the type of leadership that America has got right now, thank goodness. And you see this non-serious behavior of someone like this going over to Munich when they're not prepared. It reflects poorly on America. I've got to think that that did not help her career politically to go and have an embarrassing moment like that.
Now, Senator, the president has been strengthening allies and the relationships across the world to be stronger ahead of his meeting with Xi Jinping in April and pushing back on China's aggression. You are the former ambassador to Japan, and I wonder your reaction to what we just saw in Japan, where Shinai Takaichi, the new prime minister, won in a landslide those parliamentary elections. Mm-hmm. What is possible between the U.S. and Japan?
The relationship is stronger than ever. President Trump is extraordinarily popular in Japan. That was certainly the case when I was ambassador. We worked very hard to make that bond strong with his friend and ally, Prime Minister Abe, a great man. Takaichi is actually a protege of Abe, and she's carried the ball even further. The Japanese public is responding. One, to President Trump's endorsement of Takaichi. That went a long way. She now has record popularity, and they have a supermajority for her party in the Diet, in the Japanese parliament. So we see that coming together in a way that I think really reflects strength of our alliance, the strongest alliance in the world right now between the United States and Japan. And if you think about who doesn't like this, well, it's the CCP. You look at what the foreign minister of China said at the Munich Security Conference. He's obviously deeply concerned. If you look at what Defense Minister Koizumi said, Japan is standing strong. So we've got a strong partner from an economic standpoint, from a military standpoint, that projects strength in the region. North Korea, Russia, China are all disappointed in this.
All right, Senator, we're going to turn to the House in a moment, but real quick, is there any hesitation on John Thune's part to bring the SAVE Act to the floor in the Senate?
I think John and the entire leadership are looking at the best method to get this done. I think we all want it to happen. So I won't get ahead of the leader. He's got to navigate the procedural aspects of this in the Senate. But I think it's clear. Certainly Republicans want to see this happen. It's common sense. And I hope we get on it as soon as we possibly can.
Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much. Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty.
Thank you, Maria. Great to be with you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.